Terence Crawford could beat Canelo Alvarez with ease. And I know that's a crazy statement to make, but let me explain. So we're currently less than 8 weeks out from possibly the biggest fight in the last decade, and in my opinion, the biggest fight of this generation. We have two pound for pound greats and arguably two faces of boxing going at it to decide who is the real face of boxing. Now, I made a video on this topic 6 months ago before the fight was actually announced, and I gave a slight prediction and a breakdown of that fight, and I would highly recommend you go ahead and watch that video just for some context. But in this video, we're going to go a little bit further because the fight has actually now been announced for September 12th in Las Vegas. Now, we've seen a lot of press recently on this fight with these two having a face-off, multiple interactions, and 2 press conferences, so we're starting to get a real feel for what this fight is going to be like. Now, as you may or may all not know, Crawford is a heavy underdog in this fight due to Canelo's weight and size advantage, and considering that Crawford will be jumping up 2 weight divisions to face Canelo Alvarez. He'll be jumping from his last fight weight of 154 pounds to 168 pounds to face Canelo. Now, we know that Crawford has fought at 147 for most of his career, so this is going to be a huge jump from that. And truthfully, that is the biggest concern surrounding this fight, the weight jump. It's obviously no secret that Canelo is much more experienced and more comfortable at this weight than Crawford is. So I think most people are assuming that Canelo will power through Crawford, walk him down, and just be too much for him due to his sheer size, weight, and the fact that Crawford's never experienced power like that, which will effectively make him crumble. And that's definitely a possibility. I'm not cancelling that out at all. There is definitely the chance that Canelo could walk Crawford down and end up knocking him out, and it may actually be a big challenge for Crawford. But I'm just going to throw this one out there. Believe it or not, Crawford is actually bigger than Canelo, and although Canelo has a wide frame, he is usually a lot smaller than most of the opponents that he faces. And all I'm saying is, don't be surprised if Crawford looks bigger than Canelo on the scales or on fight night. And that's because Canelo is naturally the weight he fights at, saying that he probably doesn't cut too much weight. I mean, of course he probably still does cut weight, but probably not to the extreme level that Crawford does. In fact, it's not crazy to say that Crawford could walk around at a heavier weight than Canelo, and it's fair to say he'll probably be packing on some pounds of muscle in preparation for this fight. Now, in my opinion, I feel that the majority of fans are fixating too much on this whole weight issue, whereas I feel like these two are both great fighters, and when it comes to great fighters, we have to look at more than just the stats, because each fighter has clearly demonstrated in their career that they can overcome fighters of any size, bigger or smaller. And I think this fight comes more down to styles. And to me, there's 2 big questions in this fight. Can Crawford survive Canelo's onslaughts? And can Canelo get through to Crawford? Now, we know Canelo over recent years has become renowned for being an aggressive pressure fighter, and that's what he's best at. He's good at walking his opponents down, tiring them out, and then finishing them. But Crawford's not just any ordinary fighter, and he's not like any fighter that Canelo has faced before. He's a completely different beast, and I think Canelo's mentality of Crawford being no different to the other people he's faced, I think that's a pretty detrimental mindset to have in this fight. And if he tries to just walk Canelo down with hooks, then I think it would just be a long night for him. I mean, look at this. No one has the blueprint to beat Crawford, whereas we can't say the same for Canelo. And a lot of people get defensive about Canelo, especially when he took his early career loss to Floyd Mayweather. People defended him later on in his career, saying, well, if he faced Floyd now, then he would beat him. But when Bivol executed that same game plan perfectly, he gave Canelo a lot of problems and proved to the world that the same type of elite level boxer who has good footwork and can move around is able to beat Canelo. Look, the blueprint to beating Canelo is out there, and the perfect person who's going to be able to execute it to a T is Terence "Bud" Crawford. And we all know that Bud's a special fighter. If Bivol can beat Canelo, then why wouldn't Bud be able to? Because if anything, Crawford does what Bivol does, just better. Now, don't get me wrong, Bivol is a light heavyweight for a reason. Canelo had to jump up in weight to face Bivol, and that very well could have played a part in that fight. And look, Canelo could be too much for Crawford. He might be too big, power through him too much, and the pressure might be too much. But from what I've seen from Bud Crawford, I haven't seen anything from him that would make me think he's the type to fold under pressure, because he isn't. We saw his fight with Israel Madrimov, and this is a big reference point that people refer to when we're talking about this fight, saying that he barely scraped a decision with Israel Madrimov. Now, here's my argument for that one. Israel Madrimov, in my opinion, would be a very similar stylistic fight to Crawford versus Canelo, because Israel Madrimov's a great pressure fighter and is definitely an elite level fighter, and he gave Bud a tough fight, if anything his toughest fight yet maybe. But the way Crawford fought Israel Madrimov is very different in my opinion to the way I feel that he would fight Canelo, because a lot of the times we saw Bud Crawford stand toe to toe with Israel Madrimov, trade off and get get caught in a bit of a firefight, and is the reason that he took more shots than he probably should have. But I feel as though if Bud came with the right game plan with Canelo and avoided those trade-offs, then he'd have a good chance of winning a points victory. Now don't get me wrong, I definitely don't see Crawford standing toe-to-toe with Canelo and beating him. I think that's a quick way to get himself knocked out. And I definitely don't see Crawford stopping Canelo by any means. I think Canelo's just too powerful of a force to get stopped by anyone really. But I do see Crawford outpointing Canelo quite easily actually if he comes in with the right game plan, because there's a lot of things that Bud Crawford does better than Canelo. He jabs better than Canelo, he arguably has a better skill level than Canelo, and let me just say, I'm not saying that Canelo isn't skilled or IQ. Canelo has one of the highest IQs and skills in the sport of boxing. That's without saying, but Crawford's just another level in my opinion. Canelo's a great fighter, great skill, but I just don't think he has the tools to be able to keep up with Crawford. And I think Canelo's best bet is to walk Crawford down and try get through as much as he possibly can, because there's definitely a possibility that Canelo can knock out Crawford. I mean, they're both such accurate punchers. Both of their punching placement is absolutely insane. And I know it sounds like I've been favoring Crawford in this fight, but I genuinely feel that this fight will be a 50-50. It's a question of, can Crawford survive Canelo for 12 rounds? If the answer to that is yes, I see Crawford outboxing him for 12 rounds. And that's not an easy task. Not many people have done that. And if Canelo's able to get through on Crawford, then I see him landing something good and knocking Crawford out. But at the same time, if we look at Canelo's last fight against William Skull, he was unable to finish him. And William Skull was a terrible opponent for Canelo. I mean, he just didn't even want to engage in a real fight. But at the same time, it showed that surviving 12 rounds with Canelo isn't impossible, and is definitely something that could realistically happen from Terence Bud Crawford. Now, like I said before, this is a 50-50 fight in my opinion, and I'm super excited to see this fight. If anything, I hope it ends up to be the fight of the year and lives up to the hype. But who are you guys rooting for in this fight? Let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload. Anyways, that'll be all. I'll catch you in the next one.